mercenary camp.
You think you can open both chests, you landlubbers? That had to hurt.
Working on a genre that Blizzard is not currently developing a game of, look out. Because they're coming.
Everywhere.
You never know when it's announced, and then you're just, we're done.
Yeah.
Forget it. I don't care. It's like, our game's not out yet. It's like, doesn't matter.
It's weird because things are kind of looping back in around on themselves. This whole genre started with a Warcraft 3 mod. And now with Heroes of the Storm, Blizzard is saying, let's just change that. So history, man, it's weird.
So I put my foot in my mouth at PAX because I was playing Heroes, and I'm like, cool. I'm like, how has this game done since launch? And they're like, what? They're like, we're not.
It just
we
entered
haven't
closed
launched this
beta
game
yesterday.
yet."
Yeah.
This has been out for a long time. They keep announcing tons and tons of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just something that you just have that feeling that like, I don't know if they're going to do it right. I don't know if I'm going to prefer this over other MOBAs, but I know it's going to have. I know it's not something they're just doing on a whim. Like Blizzard doesn't do that. So
I respect that it has its own flavor. It's different than other MOBAs.
So you've been clicking harder than anybody at GT. Every time I go by your desk, that's all I hear. Lots of clicks.
Yeah, I'm
Loud
trying to
clicks.
wrap my brain around Here's the Storm, and I've been playing a lot more of it. The reason we're talking about it today is they added a couple of things. So with the launch of the closed beta, they put in Thrall, which very welcome addition. I'm a huge Thrall fan. He's probably along with Arthas, he's probably my favorite character in Warcraft. And then Sky Temple is a new map that they added. And yeah, Thrall is really good. He's a very well-rounded character. He's not amazing at anything, but he can kind of do everything. Like, he's very good at locking them down. He can increase his movement speed and attack speed with one of his abilities. His passive is every time you attack, you can heal yourself. So he's just a very resilient, like, good guy to have in a team fight kind of character.
So do you find that's better if you're like, I have a very particular style when I like to play MOBAs, so then I can adjust him to the style? Or do you think he's better for people that like can change their tactics on the battlefield? They don't necessarily have to commit to one thing.
That's a great question, Brandon Jones. I
don't play MOBAs. I got a good question.
I think he's not amazing for new players. He's not. I would never say he's hard to play. But if this is like your very first game, you kind of have to use all of your abilities well. And I think it might be better to play a character like a Nova, for example, where it's just like, okay, I just stealth and I do a lot of damage and that's it. So somebody that maybe is a little bit more focused might be better.
Well, it's interesting if people, it's like, say Hearthstone's the first Blizzard game I've ever played.
Right.
And I go into Heroes, like, oh, Thrall. I love, Thrall's my guy. Thrall's the guy I play it all the
Right.
time. And it's just like super complicated character.
You were saying this, something that this MOBA has that pretty much no other MOBAs have is you have a connection to these characters, right? So you are not just picking Thrall or Arthas theoretically because you like them. You like their kit. You like what they can do within the context of a MOBA. You just think they're really awesome, and hearing Arthas say "Frostmourne hungers" is cool.
Seeing Banelings on the map is reason enough for me to favor that instead of a game like Dota or League of Legends where I have no connection to any of those characters.
Like if you've never heard of a MOBA before and you're sitting down for the first time, it's gonna take you like half an hour to like, okay, go like person by person. When I played at PAX, they were like, okay, so we had, and I was just like, Raynor, let's go. I'm like, I don't care. Like I hope Raynor's good,
Right.
but I'm just gonna figure him out because that's clearly the character I want to play as.
And a huge part of that is like the guy who voices Raynor is Raynor in Heroes of the Storm. The guy that does Thrall is Thrall in Heroes of the Storm.
Well, the guy that does Thrall is isn't it, well, like one of the, I always forget their names because we haven't done a Blizzard retrospective in a long time, so their names aren't fresh in my head. But one of the famous Blizz devs does Thrall and does
Metzen?
a bunch of other people. Isn't it
Metzen
Metzen? One of those guys does VO.
I don't know.
One of those guys does.
I feel
You
really
don't know this?
I'm really
Oh, wow,
ashamed.
okay.
I was going to look
I
it
had
up
a
before
good
we shot
question,
this,
and
then
I
didn't.
stumped him on Blizzard trivia.
Yep.
Yes.
Brandon Jones wins this just
Coming
Who's
plain.
the guy with the
hot.
beard? Who's the guy with the big long beard, or do they all have big long beards?
Beards are in.
And he's in charge of story. He's like the story director at Blizzard.
So Chris Metzen is like he oversees everything.
I think it's
like
Metzen.
all the universes.
I think Metzen does Thrall and a couple other people.
Okay, I knew he
Yeah.
did voices, but I couldn't remember which ones he did.
Because it's like me. It's like I didn't like GameTrailers didn't hire me to do VO. Like I founded the site because I was just
Right.
around, so I started doing
Right.
voicing the reviews. And it was the same thing. Like he was just around and started voicing that stuff.
It's a good voice.
So back, well, yeah.
Logistical. The thing that I want to talk about with Heroes of the Storm, and I want to get your guys' opinion on it because I haven't decided if I like it or not. I don't know if I like Heroes of the Storm. And that's rare for me. I gravitate towards Blizzard games very quickly. But I think there are some logistical problems with Heroes of the Storm that don't fit my playstyle particularly well. So Heroes of the Storm, you don't buy items and you don't have individual levels. You have team levels. So the whole point of the game is there are every single map, and there are so many maps. MOBAs usually have one map for the entire game. All these different maps have objectives. So the new map, Sky Temple, for example, there are these points where you go and you have to stand in this circle, and as long as your team is in the circle, well, it can just be one person even, it will shoot a laser at their buildings, destroying their buildings. And to kind of challenge you, these statues will come to life, and you have to defeat the statues if you want to stay in the circle. But my problem with Heroes of the Storm is if you queue up and you're with random people and not everybody's pulling their weight and you're fighting against a team where everybody is coordinating, you will lose. It doesn't matter as much how well you do as a player. I mean, certainly...
And that's not true in Dota or League of Legends? Like...
No, so... Yes, it is true, but I feel like in Dota or League of Legends, there is more room for personal achievement. Like, if you win your lane, that will really help out your team. Even if like somebody else on your team is dying a lot, you can catch up for that. Obviously, the team that is better coordinated will win, but I feel like in Heroes of the Storm, like you either get the team objectives or you lose 90% of the time. That is not always true. But I just found like sometimes I'd be playing a game and I'd be playing really, really, really well, and we were just getting crushed because we weren't getting those objectives.
I actually really like that because Dota makes me nervous. It makes me so nervous having to figure out item builds. You know, especially if you don't play often, you don't know all the item builds for all your characters, so you got to look that up. You got to do research. I feel constrained sometimes too to what I'm buying, like, oh well, this is the right build, I gotta buy this, I gotta buy this. They just get rid of that, and I like living and dying by the team, you know. So if I personally am not pulling my weight, maybe if I'm, you know, in Dota, if you're, you know, you get to level 10 and there's a guy that's level 15, like you don't have a chance against that guy. He's gonna destroy you, everyone's gonna start blaming you. This as a team I feel like is a little more, I don't want to say casual, because that game is certainly not casual, but it's a little more relaxed.
So on paper, I completely agree with you, but in practice, it's a little bit frustrating. So as somebody who plays a lot of those games, like you can get in and immediately understand it. Like I know how to play Thrall now. Like it took me 2 matches. I'm like, okay, I think I completely get this character, and there isn't a lot for me to learn. So when I get in and I'm not with my friends and I'm just playing by myself and we're losing, it's like there's nothing I can do. I can't overcome that. Like I'm trying to ping on the map, I'm trying to tell these guys, but they're new, they don't understand, they haven't played a lot of this game. Whereas in Dota, even if I'm losing, like yes, you're right, like those item builds, the skills, where to place wards on the map, like there aren't even wards in Heroes of the Storm. I just feel like even if I'm losing, I'm always learning something. I always have like those personal things that I can do to get better. Yeah. Whereas in Heroes of the Storm, I just don't have that.
What if they had like a ranked mode where you leveled up your character, kind of like Hearthstone, where you progressed through the ladder and then you got matched up with characters of similar skill versus just being joined with random people? I think that'd be a good.
So that's a really good point.
Thanks.
Heroes of the Storm does have a ranked mode, but it's not unlocked until you reach level 30, which takes a while.
Yeah. So now you're getting thrown in with level 1.
Right. So you're right. At some point, if I keep putting the time and effort into Heroes of the Storm and I keep learning characters and I keep practicing, I will get to a point where the matchmaking sorts itself out and I'm playing highly competitive play. Yeah.
That should be unlocked from the get-go, I think. That's weird getting to level 30 for that.
Well, it's not the only one that does that. So Smite, you have to get to a particular level before you do ranked mode as well. Cool. But I just feel like immediately Smite is a more complex game. I don't know. What I really want to do is I want to get people like you, or even you, if you were interested, to play it and be like, hey, I don't normally play MOBAs, but I like this. I need a different perspective.
I'm always down for some co-op.
Yeah.
Always down.
Do you guys think that if it doesn't appeal to the traditional MOBA audience, does that even matter? Like, is this
I just think they have
niche?
so much PC clout I think it's something that people are going to want to try. Again, it's not something where it's like, well, that company's doing a MOBA. It's like, oh, obviously. It's like you got the PC pedigree. You guys nail competitive anything. You know, it's like this isn't that far. I mean, you look at Warcraft and you zoom it out far enough. It's like kind of looks like a MOBA. You know, it's like this style just makes sense so much for this company. And it's not something that was like a flash in the pan where they just like announced it and 2 months later it came out and it's had this like weird tumultuous launch. Like they are taking their time. So yeah, I just think the confidence is there that it's not. It doesn't seem like a fly by night, you know, a thing that they're working on. One last question before we wrap things up.
Yeah.
So they changed a lot of things for Hearthstone, and it seemed like, compared to typical card games, and every decision that I was like, oh, that's interesting that Magic has that and Hearthstone doesn't. And the answer was always, oh, it makes Hearthstone so much faster and so much more accessible when there's not these other tiers that could make the game more complex, but they were basically just like, don't need them. Why did they make this team decision? Like, what do you think what do you think their aim is compared to other MOBAs that they want to do to maybe make it more accessible or make it faster or make it, I don't know, sexier? It seems what Blizzard seems to do. They basically look at the heart of a genre and be like, let's just do that and focus everything around that and not do something because we have to and everyone else does it.
Right.
So what's the aim?
No, that's another really good question. I every time I play Heroes of the Storm, it is so obvious that they are trying to cleave off as much MOBA excess as possible. So I think the aim is to Blizzard, the most interesting things about MOBAs are team fights. And so they're doing everything they can to remove the build up to that, to just immediately your entire team is clashing against their entire team. And that's something that I do think is good about Heroes of the Storm, is it just has this immediacy to it. Like in Dota, you spend the first 10 minutes of a game kind of just, you know, trying to get last hits and going. It's almost like you and a buddy are facing out. It's like 2v2 basically. Whereas in Heroes of the Storm, immediately it's like, okay, no, we need the entire team to go here, capture this point, and we're fighting. So that's really good.
Yeah, it's just getting rid of some of the pressure. Like I remember when early in StarCraft 2's launch, they got rid of losses because people were taking it so hard. So it only kept track of your wins. So I think this is something similar where it's, you know, there's not one person to blame on the team. It's the whole team. So a little more inviting.
From a competitive balance standpoint, I have to wonder because, you know, in Dota or League of Legends, certain characters respond to certain items differently, and there's some room for creative builds. In Heroes of the Storm, when I've been looking at it from a competitive standpoint, because there aren't items, there are talents that you can choose, but it's like, no, this hero is either good or bad. Either it sees play or it doesn't. And I have to worry. I'm just curious, you know, from a competitive standpoint, if we're going to see the same heroes in every like tournament.
Oh, interesting.
So.
But I think Blizzard's done a good job across all of their genres and games at like tweaking that. You know, I mean, like so much has changed in Warcraft over the years, World of Warcraft. You know, so if like these things don't work, if team focus, if that isn't working, then I could see them changing it down the road. And when they do, I want you in that chair explaining it, and I want you sitting next to him, smiling and nodding most of the time.
Yes.
I think, you know, this is something where this is just how I feel about the game right now.
Right.
I bet in 3 months I could come back, and I wouldn't be surprised if I got on this camera and was like, yeah, Here's the Storm is the best MOBA. So. I commend them most of all for being so different. Like, as much as I like Smite, it takes the League of Legends template and makes it third person. There's almost nothing to compare it to. So, it's impressive.
Cool.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do down the road. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you, Huber.
Don't let it go to your head. Keep fighting. Elements guide me.